Langley versus Vancouver. If you're a family trying to choose between these two places in 2025, this video will save you from making a seriously expensive mistake. And stick around to the end because I'll break down the long-term family cost between these two different cities, because once you see how the numbers actually compound over the 5 to 10 years, the cheaper versus more expensive conversation looks completely different. Let's jump into it. So here's the truth. Langley and Vancouver are not competing with each other. They're designed for two totally different lifestyles. Vancouver is built more for convenience, energy, density, walkability, and culture, while Langley is built more for space, comfort, predictability, and family life. And the only people who get burned in this decision are the people who try to make a lifestyle city behave like a family city or vice versa. So let's start with what most families care about most, the homes. These are HPI prices straight from the Fraser Valley Real Estate Board Stats Center. Vancouver Detached homes as of November 2025 will run you about $2.432 million, down 5.6% year over year. Langley Detached will be about $1.543 million, down about 4.9% year over year. And this is the key. A 5% drop in Vancouver is around $121,000, whereas a 5% drop in Langley is around $77,000. This is why upsizing in a softer market is one of the biggest financial shortcuts families can have, because you lose a small percentage on the current property, but the bigger home you're moving into loses way more in dollar terms. Families who do this move right save tens of thousands, and they feel it every month in the type of home they get to live in. Now let's zoom out with the 3-year trend. For Vancouver detached homes in 2023, they were $2.563 million. In 2024, they were $2.576 million. And in 2025, they were $2.432 million. As for Langley detached, they were $1.614 million. In 2024, they were $1.623 million. And in 2025, they were $1.543 million. Both markets fluctuated, but Langley's swings were smaller, which matters for families who need predictability and stability. If you have more stability, it means you can plan a little better and it's a little bit less stressful. Now let's move on to condos, because a lot of young families are starting here. Vancouver condos were $742,000, down about 6%. Langley was $564,000, down about 5.5%. In the 3-year trend for Vancouver, in 2023 you're $797,000, 2024 you're $789,000, in 2025 you're $742,000. Whereas Langley, you were $599,000 in 2023. In 2024, you were $597,000, and in 2025, you were $564,000. Now, here's what families almost always overlook. Condos in Vancouver are getting smaller. Developers are forced into density, bedrooms shrink, storage shrinks, living rooms disappear, and you end up paying more for less because the land is so much more expensive. Langley condos are generally built a little bit better for actual living, bigger layouts, bigger bedrooms, more storage, better parking, better natural light, and it's not even close in some cases. Now on to townhomes, honestly the category that determines most families' decisions. Vancouver townhomes were around $1.245 million, down 7.9%, whereas Langley townhomes came in at $827,000, down about 4.7%. That is almost double the decline on the Vancouver side. And here's the real story. Vancouver's townhomes are designed to fit into tight spaces. Most of the time, you're paying $1.2 million plus for 1,100 to 1,300 square feet with small rooms, no yard, no basement, and limited parking. Whereas Langley townhomes around that $830,000 mark routinely offer 1,500 to 1,900 square feet, 3 to 4 bedrooms, side-by-side garages, driveways, usable backyards, big kitchens, actual dining rooms, more natural light, and better privacy. So for a lot of families, that is a game-changing difference. Now let's go over price per square foot, the stat that really exposes affordability. For Vancouver condo price per square foot, you're going to be around $1,150 to $1,350. For Langley condo price per square foot, you're going to be $650 to $750. Vancouver townhomes price per square foot, you're going to be $850 to $1,000. For Langley townhomes, you're going to be about $520 to $650 per square foot. So a lot of families don't care about luxury finishes. A lot of families just care about where the crib goes, where the stroller goes, where the hockey gear goes, where the dog crate goes, and where the grandparents stay. And a lot of times they just need more space and not bragging rights. So now let's move on to schools, because this one can be one of the biggest deciding factors. Vancouver has some of the top ranking schools in BC: Lord Byng, Kitsilano, Prince of Wales, but the cost to live near them is absolutely brutal. Detached homes near these areas can be between $2.5 million and $5 million plus. Langley offers strong schools without forcing families into 7-figure pressure zones. Families can get more house inside of the same school catchment, not less. And the one thing parents tell me over and over again is Langley schools feel a little bit more modern, they feel more community-based, and they're a little bit less overwhelming. Now moving on to childcare, the invisible costs that no one really talks about. So here's some of the stats that families have paid in both areas. Vancouver daycares will generally run you between $1,450 to $1,850 a month, whereas Langley daycares will be about $1,100 to $1,400 a month. That's $300 to $500 a month savings, which becomes $3,600 to $6,000 per year. And if it's 2 kids, that's $7,200 to $12,000 per year. That is a lot of money, doesn't matter who you are. Next, let's move on to the commute. And families don't just commute to work, they commute to everything. School, daycare, groceries, sports, events, birthday parties, and endless activities. StatsCan data shows the average Vancouver commute is about 27 minutes, and the average Langley to Vancouver commute is about 55 to 70 minutes. But here's the factor families forget to weigh. 31% of Metro Vancouver workers are now hybrid or remote. That number has doubled since 2019, which completely changes everything. A 70-minute commute twice a week is very different than 5 days a week. And the truth is, Langley is built more for families with hybrid jobs, and Vancouver is built more for families with downtown jobs. Let's go a little bit deeper into how after school life looks like in each city. Vancouver really excels at community centers within minutes, arts programs, music lessons, pools and rinks, waterfront activities, dense networks, and programs for every age. Whereas some of the trade-offs families feel every day are tight parking, wait list, sessions filling instantly, expensive program fees, and commuting between neighborhoods. Langley gives families something completely different. It has giant parks, new recreation centers, indoor play facilities, quieter streets, easier parking, larger fields, more green space, larger daycare yards, and accessible sports programs. So in Langley, the routine is easier, and in Vancouver, the routine is a little bit closer, but more chaotic. So next, we're gonna move on to neighborhood safety, because yes, parents feel the difference. Vancouver residential areas can deal with higher property crime, more foot traffic, car break-ins, bike theft, noise complaints, late night activity near condo zones, whereas Langley residential areas deal with quieter streets, less dense foot traffic, less noise, lower violent crime, and property crime mostly around commercial zones. So if you're a family with young kids, the feel of the neighborhood can matter just as much as any stat. Moving on, we'll talk about the cost of raising kids, the part that most families don't factor in when they make the move. So according to the BC Family Cost Index, for food, families in Vancouver spend around $350 to $500 more per month than families in Langley. And the reasons are higher grocery pricing, more reliance on takeout, and more accessibility to convenience food in urban areas. For sports and activities, Vancouver programs cost 20 to 30% more due to facility demand, whereas Langley has lower program fees and more availability with easier scheduling. As for housing costs, Vancouver strata fees are averaging around $400 to $650 per month, whereas Langley strata fees are averaging between $250 and $450 a month. That's another $150 to $200 difference over 5 years. That's $9,000 to $12,000. Parking alone in Vancouver can take an extra $100 to $200 a month, depending on your lifestyle. And this is where families realize Vancouver isn't just a more expensive city to buy, it's more expensive to live in as well. So next, we're going to talk about population and future growth, because where most people move, property values can follow. So the StatsCan Sub-Regional Migration Report shows Langley's population growth is 3.1%, whereas Vancouver's is 1.2%. So now the Fraser Valley is attracting young families, new Canadians, remote workers, hybrid workers, investors seeking yield, people leaving condos for townhomes, and people leaving small spaces for affordability. Meanwhile, Vancouver is attracting international buyers, downsizers, young professionals, students, and high-income urban households. Langley is the place where families are growing into, whereas Vancouver is the place families often feel like they are growing out of. So next, we're going to talk about long-term upside for families. Vancouver's value comes from global city status, limited land, coastal desirability, cultural demand, transit infrastructure, and proximity to downtown jobs. Langley's value comes from affordability, newer construction, population growth, school expansion, family migration, suburban stability, bigger home sizes, and lifestyle convenience. So families often ask me, where will my home grow more in the next 10 years? And the answer isn't about speculation, it's more about demand. Vancouver demand is driven by international students, high-income earners, downsizers, and corporate relocation, whereas Langley demand is driven by young families, upsizers, first-time buyers, value-driven households, and hybrid workers. Currently, young families are the largest buyer demographic in BC right now by a massive margin. And those families are overwhelmingly choosing the Fraser Valley. Now here's a real question you could ask yourself is, where will my kids have the best day-to-day life? Because Vancouver gives you walkability, culture, beaches, arts, transit independence, restaurants, and a high density social life. Whereas Langley gives you space, comfort, bigger homes, safer feeling neighborhoods, easier routines, more stability, more predictability, and community. One is lifestyle first and one is family first. And you need to choose based on the lifestyle you're trying to build, not the city you think you're supposed to pick. And if you do want me to map out the best neighborhoods for your commute, your budget, your kids, your school needs, and your lifestyle goals, you can text me at 604-288-7592 and I can break it all down for you. So now let's go even deeper into the real world lifestyle differences family feel between Langley and Vancouver, because this is the part that actually defines how your next 5 to 15 years are going to feel. So let's start with something simple, your mornings. A Vancouver morning looks like waking up in a smaller home, limited counter space, navigating tighter hallways, elevators, street parking or parkades, stacked morning routines, fast-paced energy, kids getting ready in smaller rooms, loading strollers through tight condo doors. Whereas a Langley morning looks like waking up to more space, breakfast at an actual table, parking in your own garage, direct access from your home to your car, kids getting ready in bigger rooms, quieter neighborhoods, an easier pace, and generally less stress before work starts. Families don't think about this until they experience both, but morning stress can compound over a year. It shapes your entire quality of life. Now let's talk commute psychology, not just commute time. So a lot of the time people will ask me, what's the commute time? Which can be the wrong question. A better question could be, how does the commute feel? Here's why. A 30-minute commute in Vancouver might mean slow traffic, navigating cyclists, tight streets, finding parking, and dealing with a ton of congestion. Whereas a 45-minute commute from Langley might mean you're on the highway the entire time, listening to podcasts with predictable traffic, parked right at home. Time matters, but friction can matter more. Two commutes can be the exact same length, but feel completely different. Next, we're gonna go over weekend lifestyle. A Vancouver weekend gives you Science World, Stanley Park, Kids Beach, Granville Island, urban events, restaurants, cultural experiences, and a lot of transit accessible attractions. Vancouver is hands down better for stimulation, it's better for teens, and it's a lot better for parents who love being in the city. A Langley weekend gives you backyard barbecues, 4 Langley strolls, regional parks, playground hopping, sports field, Costco runs, the Walnut Grove Rec Center, Willoughby Community Center, a lot of dog parks, a lot of breweries, and more trails. It's amazing for relaxation, it's amazing for toddlers, and it's amazing for families who want easy, low-stress weekends with their dogs. Again, neither is better, they're just completely different energies. So next, we're going to go over the noise. Vancouver neighborhood noise is going to be a lot of traffic, sirens, nightlife, delivery trucks, neighbors above or below, foot traffic, a lot of construction, and a ton of condo noise transfer. Whereas Langley neighborhood noise is going to be a lot more birds, kids playing, lawnmowers, still a decent amount of construction, but it depends on which pocket you're in, occasional street traffic, and a lot less density noise. Noise can be one of the biggest sources of stress for families, especially parents of newborns. Now let's talk about storage, because no family has ever said, well, we just have too much storage. With Vancouver, you're usually going to get small closets, limited kitchen space, little to no pantry, no garage storage, tight laundry areas, strollers stored in the living room, sports gear stored in the bedroom, and bikes stored on balconies. With storage in Langley, you're going to get a lot more walk-in closets, real pantries, garages with shelves, basement storage, mudrooms, bigger laundry rooms, space for a second fridge or a freezer. And families underestimate how much a home's storage capacity affects stress. Now let's hit parking, because this one sneaks up a lot on families. For Vancouver, you're going to get a ton of parallel parking, underground parkades, small parking stalls, limited visitor parking, paid street parking, competitive drop-off zones at schools. As for Langley, you're going to get a lot more driveway and garage parking, wider visitor parking, safer school zones, easier daycare pickup, and a lot more space to unload groceries pretty much anywhere you park. And this area is where Langley does shine quite a bit more. Daily errands don't feel as stressful, they just feel a little bit more normal. Next, we're going to move on to neighborhood feel. Vancouver neighborhood feel is very vibrant, energetic, walkable, diverse, urban, fast-paced, social, dense, whereas the Vancouver neighborhood feel is very calm, safe-feeling, community-oriented, slower, more space between homes, more kids outside, and more neighborhood familiarity. A lot of families have told me in Langley it feels like a lot of people are living at the same stage of life, which could be night or day depending on the complex or the neighborhood you live in. So next, let's go a little bit deeper into school differences, because a lot of families do not get enough guidance here. Vancouver schools have higher academic reputations, older school buildings, more diverse programs, more competition for top programs, and higher student density, whereas Langley schools have newer buildings, larger playgrounds, growing programs, strong PAC engagement, and lower density per school. And here's the biggest nuance. Langley has more room to build more new schools, whereas Vancouver does not. In 10 to 15 years, Langley will have more modern facilities simply due to geography and development patterns. Now let's talk about teen lifestyle, because families with older kids see a completely different set of pros and cons. Teens in Vancouver get transit independence, more job opportunities, more activities, more social spaces, more cultural exposure, and more post-school options. Teens in Langley will get a safer feeling neighborhood, smaller community circles, easier parental pickup routines, slower social pace, but more team-based sports are available. Some teens thrive in Vancouver's independence, whereas others thrive in Langley's stability. Next, move on to family economics, the part that actually decides long-term financial stability. As for housing affordability, a Langley mortgage on a townhome often equals a Vancouver mortgage on a condo. As for the living cost affordability, over 5 years, Langley families spent tens of thousands less simply due to lower program fees, lower strata fees, lower childcare costs, and lower grocery costs. In terms of home maintenance affordability, newer Langley homes mean fewer repairs, and older Vancouver homes mean more upkeep. And the same applies to older stratas and newer stratas. As for lifestyle affordability, Vancouver encourages eating out, whereas Langley encourages staying home or local. As for transportation affordability, Vancouver has transit passes, parking fees, bike repairs, whereas Langley has more gas but fewer urban costs. For retail affordability, Langley has big box pricing, whereas Vancouver has premium pricing. If you multiply that over 5 to 10 years, the gap can become much more substantial than you think at first. So next, let's talk about future opportunity. Families don't just buy homes, they buy pathways. So Vancouver offers pathways in high-ranking schools, cultural immersion, access to elite curriculars, networking opportunities, independence for older kids. Langley offers pathways in larger homes, multi-generational living, future expansions, investment growth in suburban roads, lifestyle stability, and backyard childhood experiences. And here's another reality that a lot of people don't think about is your kids will remember the home more than the city. They'll remember where they played, the size of the room, the backyard, the neighborhood kids, how much space they had, where they learned to bike, the kitchen where the birthdays happened, and families in Langley get more of that by default. Now let's talk about the mental load, which is the silent killer in most family decisions. The Vancouver family mental load can be parking, elevators, traffic, noise, tight layouts, crowded grocery stores, stroller logistics, daycare waitlists, and urban friction, whereas the Langley family mental load is really just driving more and maintaining a larger home. But overall, Langley reduces more daily friction than it creates. So next we can go over identity fit, which is families who choose Vancouver usually say we love being close to everything, we want our kids to be exposed to diverse experiences, we want that city feel, or we want that transit for our teens. Whereas families who choose Langley usually say we need more space, we want a quieter environment, we want better value for a dollar, or we want an easier daily routine, or they just want a family-first community. So next, let's talk about long-term wealth. Vancouver gives you slower appreciation, a higher entry point, strong resale demand, and global city stability, whereas Langley gives you stronger appreciation in growth cycles, lower entry point, rapid population growth, suburban development upside, and more square footage, which for a lot of people is more long-term value. So if you're a family building wealth, square footage matters, land matters, functionality matters. You're not just buying an asset, you're buying a multiplier. So now to get straight to it, who should absolutely pick Vancouver? Downtown workers, people who hate driving, families who value walkability, people who prioritize cultural exposure, families who need elite programs, families with older teens who want independence. And who should absolutely pick Langley? Families with toddlers, families planning more children, families needing more space, families who want quieter neighborhoods, families with hybrid jobs, families who want more value per dollar, families who want newer homes, or families who want less stress. So lastly, I'll say this is one of the most important things in the entire video, and that's the best city is the one that supports the life you actually want to live, not the life you imagine you should have. And a lot of families just don't need Vancouver. They just want the idea of Vancouver. What they actually need is space, comfort, routine, stability, schools, a layout that works, and a home that fits their life. Langley gives you that without completely breaking the bank. And on the flip side, some families do really need Vancouver because of their careers, their routines, and their values are tied in convenience and culture. Neither decision is wrong, but one could make your life much easier and one could make your life much more compressed. And again, if you want me to map out exactly which neighborhoods fit your family's needs, schools, budgets, commute, lifestyle, just shoot me a text at 604-288 7592, and I'll send you a full personalized breakdown. See you in the next video.